We cannot deny that the word communication cannot be already removed in our daily life because, as they said, no man is an island. Now, let's talk about the word communication in the workplace as we experience this pandemic. This is Sheila May Binay-an, and we are the group.
Hello everyone. I will be sharing some advantages and disadvantages of online distance learning to teachers and students. So first, let's go to the advantages of online distance learning to students. The accessibility of time and place. It allows students to attend classes from any location of their choice and helps students to access the learning materials at a time of their comfort. Affordability. Online learning reduces financial costs and far more affordable as compared to physical learning. It also reduces the cost of students' transportation, rent, bills, especially when they are staying in a boarding house. It improves students' attendance. There are fewer chances of students missing out in lessons since online classes can be taken from home or location of their choice. It also promotes independency. It is indeed challenging since we don't have friends around us that we can directly approach if we need some ideas and explanation about the topics. That's why we need to do our best to comprehend the lessons on our own. Convenient. It is the greatest benefit of online learning as long as we have our own computer, cell phones, and internet connection. Learners can access anywhere and anytime. And lastly, flexibility. Learning becomes easier when aligned with one's learning needs and preferences. It also allows learners to study at their own. The next topic is the disadvantages of online distance learning to students. First is solo act. Some people need personal contact with their educators or trainers in order to learn successfully. It also includes health issues. Attending classes online requires sitting in front of a laptop or mobile phone for longer hours can give some health issues like headaches, eye strain, and bad postures. Inability to focus on screens. There are struggles with focusing on screens for long period of time and greater chance for students to be easily distracted by social media or other sites. Technological issues. Another challenge in online classes is internet connectivity. And aside from the issues that causes videos to freeze and streaming to be disconnected, there may be problems with ambient noises that can be distracting like dog bark. Next is the technological issues. Another challenge in online classes is internet connectivity, and aside from the issue that causes videos to freeze and streaming to be disconnected, there may be problems with ambient noises that can be distracting like dog barking, construction noises from neighborhood, and others. The accessibility. Some students doesn't have gadgets or internet access and some may find it difficult to get materials for courses, especially if you live in a remote area. And lastly is the level of stress. Some students isolate themselves for the reason that they can't handle the workload and the feeling of anxiety caused by deadline of paperworks. Let's proceed now to the advantages of online distance learning to teachers. The flexibility. What teachers need more is a flexible way to gain the knowledge and skills they need to do their job better. Online learning encourages this by offering a variety of schedules in times of asynchronous and synchronous learning. Courses can be taken from one's home or during the time off from work. It also saves time. Time is one of the most precious commodities for educators. By eliminating the need to commute to a university during morning, afternoon, and evening, they can spend more time learning concepts than traveling to classes. Technological involvement. The computation of grades and scores are all automatic by the use of computer. And lastly, the learning platforms. Like Canvas tools can enhance teaching power and saves more time and effort and allows greater focus on other priorities. And lastly, let's proceed now to the disadvantages of online distance learning to teachers. Limited interaction. Since teachers and students interact via Zoom, Google Meet, and other platforms, it is hard for teachers to see the reaction of students or expression, whether they understand the lessons or not, since not all are required to open their camera during classes. The lack of experiences and trainings in using electronics. It becomes pretty big challenge to develop technology, developing strategies or videotaping something. They need to install proper tools to provide an efficient and effective discussion to students for a better learning. So thank you for listening, and that's all.
March 2020 was when the lockdown started here in the Philippines due to COVID-19, and of course, lockdown also means restriction of almost all of our daily activities. The usual busy life of the people suddenly went on a freeze, and while stressing over our health, our source of income, our studies and all, we had no choice but to stay at home and just stress over it because there's nothing we can do due to the threat of the virus. At first, we thought it's good anyway for we have a time to rest, but then the lockdown continued up until now. And this is where most of us teachers, students, parents and etc. have met problems regarding our mental health. Before we start, ask yourself first, am I really okay? Am I okay? Based from the articles I have read, there are three main mental health problems that was encountered by students and teachers in this setup. First is anxiety, next is stress, and the last one is depression. The first one we will discuss is anxiety. These are emotions characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure. People with anxiety disorders usually have recurring intrusive thoughts or concerns. They may avoid certain situations out of worry. Next is the anxiety attacks. Anxiety attacks are also known as panic attacks, and these are episodes of intense panic or fear. They usually occur suddenly and without warning. For example, as students and teachers, it is unavoidable that we will encounter panic attacks, especially that it is our first time going through online learning. My grandmom is a teacher, so I tried asking her how her mental health is during this time, and she said that she suffers from stress and anxiety attacks more often now. She's not that familiar with the use of technologies, and that's why she feels pressured sometimes. She even asked help from me for her to familiarize the icons with this and that, especially in the Zoom meeting, the Google Classroom. And yes, as for me, as a student, I usually encounter panic attacks whenever my name is called in the online meeting, whenever the teacher asks a certain question and she calls for names. That's when my fear comes out. So next in the slide is stress. Stress in medicine is the body's response to physical, mental, or emotional pressure. Stress causes chemical changes in the body that can raise blood pressure, heart rate, and blood sugar levels. It may also lead to feelings of frustration, anxiety, anger, or depression. So examples of stress, this usually comes out when a student is frustrated with the internet connection, or when a student is loaded with modules. When it comes to the teachers, stress usually comes whenever the internet connection is not stable, whenever a student is not passing on time, whenever there's a sudden power interruption. So the third one here in the slide is depression. Depression causes feelings of sadness and or loss of interest in activities you once enjoyed. It can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems and can decrease your ability to function at work and at home. I have an example here which is a sensitive issue, but I'll try to share it to you guys anyway. I actually have a friend, and she also used to be my schoolmate before, during our junior high school days. In fact, she's one of the outstanding students in our school before. And here comes senior high, and here also comes the COVID-19 pandemic. And at first, everything was okay, everything was fine. She didn't show signs of anything of depression, of stress, of anxiety, but little did we know that behind her funny shared post, her memes, she was already suffering from depression. So I think it was last May, she took her own life because of depression, because of the online setup, because of the online learning, because of the pandemic. Everything mixed up. That's why I feel like she was not able to take it anymore. That's why she took her own life and left us at the age of 18. So the lesson here is that we should always check up our friends. We should always communicate with them, ask them if they're really doing okay, if everything is fine, if ever there's a problem, something like that, so that regret will not come if ever something happens to her or what. Here are some friendly reminders. Okay, so first one is give yourself some me time. Go on a coffee date with yourself, go alone, eat outside alone, go on a walk alone, go to Burnham Park, something like that. And if others can, you can too. As what our school says, #yes you can. Take everything slowly but surely. A friend of mine always reminds me that we should always take time on everything we do for us to lessen our stress and burden from the activities. Next is eat well. Even if you are too busy with your schedule, with the modules, you should always eat for you to have strength to do these activities. Sleep 8 hours daily, okay? Monitor your sleeping hours. You should be patient with yourself. You should be patient with others because we all are going through something. Next here is always say no to negativity. We should always look for positive thoughts, positive memes, positive quotes, so that we will also be positive. And lastly, love yourself. You should always love yourself first before loving others. And focus on yourself, focus on your goals, focus on your dreams. Yes. Thank you.
And the first list, making daily plans. Keeping a good track of your daily schedule, from your online classes, exercises, meals, and bedtime. But don't forget to make time for doing things that lighten your mood, like watching movies, listening to music, and revisiting old hobbies. It is important for us students and teachers for making our own schedule, so that it will help us avoid overworking our body and brain for many different tasks that should be done in a day. And an example of how are we going to compose our very own schedule is by accounting for breaks, in order for us to relax our body and mind. Second, considering our extracurricular interests for practicing, training, and events. Mapping out meals, for building in designated for us to sit down, eat, and refuel. Scheduling for rest and sleep, for us to rest our body and mind in order for us to think properly when we wake up. Working in quality time, wherein you are going to work in your vacant time, like you are going to teach your siblings and many other things or tasks that should be done on your vacant time. Next, making time for physical activities, wherein you are going to exercise your body in order to stay fit. Next, setting aside time for reading and homework, wherein during this time we are going to read some textbooks and answering our homeworks. Second to the last, scheduling family meetings, wherein we are going to schedule our time to bond with our family and friends so that we will not feel lonely. And lastly, setting aside time to distress, wherein we are going to do all things that would help us or make us lift our mood, like watching TV, listening to music, playing games, or any other hobbies that you have. And the second list, establishing a good connection with your friends and family. Self-isolation can bring a feeling of boredom and loneliness. Connecting with your loved ones through different messaging apps. This will give you a feeling of comfortability. In establishing a good connection with our family and friends may help us avoid stress and boredom or the feeling of isolation. For example, you are so lonely on your place or on your workplace that you could think negative things like there's no one to love you or committing suicide and many more. And another example, when you are all alone in your apartment and there's no one to talk to or text, you could call your parents and friends through Messenger, Zoom, and many other apps and talk about many things like the good times, happenings, and many topics that you would want to talk to in order to avoid stress and boredom. And the third list, limiting social media interaction, wherein social media is a powerful tool that connects on the go all the time, and this is not often helpful. Only identifying the most important social media communication can we manage and engage with, and this will also help us manage our time too, wherein we will need to isolate some other social media for us to manage our time wisely. Like for example, you have so many social media accounts and every day there are so many text messages that you wouldn't know what to read first. But you couldn't help but miss the most important messages, like when will the online classes starts, some notification telling you that your assignment activities or quizzes that needed to be done and submitted have already ended. That's all for this third list. And the fourth list, setting boundaries on too much media consumption. Information is overflowed through online. This is rapidly changing on constant time. Learn to be properly informed and updated, but not overwhelmed with too much information. So, by setting a limit on our media consumption, we can help ourselves from overloaded or overburdening ourselves with so much information that we couldn't handle by ourselves, that we will need to column it to important and not important tasks to make it more easily for us to work it out without burdening ourselves. In the fifth place, managing our negative feelings. The uncertainty of this time can bring negative feelings. Taking time to reflect and setting your mood on your everyday experiences. And if we couldn't manage our negative feelings, it may lead to depression. So, in order to manage our negative feelings, we will need to think about our happy memories, thinking for whom are we doing or studying for, and praying to God to give us courage and strength to pass these trials that He had given to us. And lastly, we could also do the things that could help lift our mood, like watching movies of your choice, chatting with your friends and family, listening to music, playing games, and many more in order for us to avoid thinking negative feelings and depression. And the sixth list, connecting with mental health services providers. Considering your mental health too, if there are existing mental health conditions that you may find brought by the pandemic, reach out to support providers. An example of support providers were the psychiatrists and psychologists. Psychologists specializes in behaviors, emotions, and thoughts. They treat a range of issues like relationship problems, family problem, to mental illness through counseling. Next, psychiatrists mainly diagnose, treat, and help prevent mental, emotional, and behavior disorder. They could also prescribe medication to help with mental and emotional problems. The last place, taking away the existing uncertainties that are happening now may evoke the feelings of worry and frustration, and the changes, unusual routines may cause anxiety to many, and despite all this, learning must continue. Whatever learning modality that education institutions implement, and moving towards the new normal, it is necessarily for us to take precautionary measures on academic progress and mental health too. Wherein, the pandemic most likely robbing us from the things or times that we are accustomed to, like waking up early in the morning, going to school to study, taking side glances at your crush when she's not looking at you, and most of all, the happy memories that we would want to make with our classmates and teachers are all gone. Even so, we still need to study in order for us to achieve our dreams, even if it is impossible to reach, other than wasting our time doing nothing to achieve those dreams that we've dreamed during those younger years. That's all.
Let's also talk about the trending here in the Philippines as of today. Let us first talk about the words who trend when this pandemic came. First, we have here the word social distancing, wherein we need to be away from each other for 1 meter or more to avoid the spreading of the virus. We also have here the word quarantine. It is for those who have been exposed to some COVID-19 or those who recently traveled to a country or region with widespread transmission, or have been advised to have self-quarantine for 14 days before going home to his or her family. We also have here the word new normal. It is the situation we are currently facing as of today. I mean the new routine, new educational system, new social life, and new protocols. And nextly, we have also the word lockdown, wherein we aren't able to leave our homes or our community outside the community to avoid the transmission of the virus. Also, we have here the online learning. Online learning, it is the new method of our education as of today, wherein we use smartphones, computers, laptops to learn and for us to avoid the spreading of the virus. We also have here the application we use, especially the students, learners, and teachers, like Zoom, Google Meet, Canvas, Gmail, and many more apps for us to use in our online meetings. And lastly, we also have here the basic necessities we need to avoid the virus, we have here the face mask. Of course, we need this to not be exposed or to avoid the transmission of the virus. They said that for us to be away or to avoid having this kind of virus is for us to have a strong immunity. That's why I am encouraging you guys to eat more vegetables that are full of vitamins or drink vitamins like ascorbic acid. We also need the hygiene products like alcohol. We need this to avoid the virus, which is possible to be in the things that we touch. We need to wash our hands with safeguard or to use alcohol or sanitizer.
Let's talk about the common issues in the workplace. Number 1. Health issues. Recent studies have indicated that individuals who spend an excessive amount of time on electronic devices experience difficulties focusing and internet addiction that can seriously impact our lives. It can lead to social isolation, ultimately resulting in decreased academic achievement and mental illnesses such as depression and anxiety. In addition to mental health risks, spending an extended amount of time at a computer can have negative physical effects on your body. Sometimes as a result of procrastination, new e-learners may find themselves studying and completing assignments for sessions lasting several hours. This behavior can lead to a wide range of health risks, such as muscle and joint injuries, increased mortality rate associated with excessive sitting, eye strain from computer or mobile phone use, and associated symptoms. Number 2. Technical issues. Many students are not provided with the high bandwidth or strong internet connection that online courses require, and thus fail to catch up. Their weak monitors make it hard to follow the course management system, and their learning experience becomes poor. Number 3. Distractions and time management. Time management is a difficult task for e-learners as online courses requires a lot of time and intensive work. Students have the time to take the courses due to their various everyday commitments. However, without the structure of a traditional classroom, online learning can also be challenging in inside distractions. Top distractions for students includes social media, television, and family, which can pull one's attention away from the task at hand and diminish focus. Number 4. Less direct contact. Connecting with academic peers, communicating with the instructor, and maintaining a personal social life can become a challenge when all interactions take place remotely. Online classes don't offer the same immediate and regular access to instructors and classmates as traditional face-to-face classes. It negatively impacts a student's ability to interact with professors, ask questions, and get immediate help. It also takes away from some of the social and team building that occurs informally in classrooms.